Listen, they and each and everyone, we're gonna tackle about the collision for the regulation rule 1, 2, and 3. By the way, I am Shelo Emmanuel Abelgas, and my fellow teammates is Abeliana Andre and Agasa Jisrael. So next, please. So our course outcome is knowledge on the rules and regulation that is stated on the International Regulation for Preventing Collision at Sea 1972. Next, please. And the learning outcomes exhibit mastery in the rules and regulation of the International Regulation for Preventing Collision at Sea 1972 as amended. Next, please. And the importance of the topic for us students to have extensive knowledge and understanding of the rules and principle of COLREG 1972. So next, please. So the three rules that were tackled about COLREG 1972 is the Rule 1, Application, Rule 2, Responsibility, Rule 3, General Definition. Next, please. So we're gonna start about the Rule 1A. These rules shall apply to all vessels upon the. So the Rule 1A states that these rules shall apply to all vessel operation on the open seas and in all water navigable by sea-going vessel. So it means that all vessels operating on the open or high seas are covered by the implemented rules. So next, please. Rule 1B. Nothing in this rule shall interfere with the operation of any special rules made by an appropriate authority. So it means nothing in this regulation shall be considered to prevent the implementation of specific rules enacted by an appropriate authority for an roadstead, harbors, rivers, lake, or inland waterways attached toward the open seas and accessible by sea-going vessel. And therefore, this specific regulation should be as close to the issued rules as possible. Next, please. Such special rules shall conform as closely as possible to these rules. Next, please. Rule 1C. Nothing in this rule shall interfere with the operation of any special rules made by the government of any state with respect. So none in these rules shall be regarded as disrupting with the operation of any specific rules issued by the government of any state pertaining to additional station or signal lights, shape, or whistle signal for the ship wars, vessel proceeding in convoy, or for fishing vessel. Therefore, all vessel or ships operating must follow the specific rules implemented by the government. Next, please. Rule 1D, the Traffic Separation Schemes, TSS. So it means this organization may adopt traffic separation schemes in order to comply with these rules. Next, please. Rule 1E. Whenever the government concerned shall determine that a vessel of any special construction or purpose cannot comply with the provision of any of these rules with respect to. So it means a vessel of a special construction or may have purpose may not fully comply with any of these rules. However, it must comply with such other provision as the government may have determined to be the closest possible. So next, please. So the disposition and characteristic of sound signaling appliances, such vessels shall comply with such other provision in regards to the numbers, position, range, or arc of visible of light or shapes, as well as the disposition and characteristic of sound signaling appliances, as her government shall have determined to the closest possible compliance with this rule in respect of the vessel. So therefore, the first rule, which is the application, play a big role to the collision regulation to give us to clear an indication about passing, approaching, giving way, and overtaking to avoid collision with other ships on the sea water. And that's all for the rule while application. So next is Andre Abeliana.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Andre Bellana, here to report COLREG Rule Number 2 Responsibility. Now, Rule 2 Responsibility Part A means nothing in these rules shall exonerate any vessel, the owner, the master, or the crew. With exonerate means to hold blameless or to not or to excuse. So, any vessel owner or master or crew shall not be excused from the consequences of neglect to comply with these rules or of the neglect of any precaution which may be required by the ordinary practice of seamen. Now, this means that the neglect of precaution which should be the ordinary practice of seamen shall be faced with consequences or by the special circumstances of the case. Now, Rule 2 Responsibility, Part B. In construing and complying with these rules, due regard shall be had to all dangers of navigation, collision, or any special circumstances, including the limitations of the vessels involved. Now, construing means to analyze and thoroughly understand. So, to thoroughly understand and analyze in complying with these rules, the priority shall be focused on the dangers of navigation, the collision, and any special circumstances, like head-on collision navig- or the route of the ship, which may be dangerous. Now, which may make a departure from these rules necessary to avoid immediate danger. Now, this means that if there are immediate danger, then if the only way to avoid immediate danger stay is to not is to stray away from the rules, then it is okay. Next is Rule 3 General Definitions. Now, for the purpose of these rules, except where the context otherwise requires. Now, Part A of Rule 3 General Definitions is the word vessel. Now, the vessel includes every description of watercraft used or capable of being used as a means of transportation on water. Now, this means that any any vehicle that a person can ride on to travel from point A to point B is considered a vessel. Now, these are two examples of vessels. They can travel from point A to point B. Next is part B. Now part B is power driven vessel. Now power driven vessel means any vessel propelled by machinery. Like a power driven vessel is um, cer- a more certain. It means that any vehicle that is propelled by machinery. Now next is the Rule 3 General Definitions Part C. Now, Part C is the sailing vessel. Now, the term sailing vessel means any vessel under sail provided that propelling machinery, if fitted, is not being used. Now, sailing vessels are vessels which uses the air to travel from point A to point B. And it is and a vessel is still considered a sailing vessel even if it has a machinery as long as it is not used to travel from point A to point B. Now, next is the Rule 3 General Definitions Part B, which will be
So,
discussed by
thank you, Andre, for that wonderful report. I am Jezreel Dave Agasa, and I will be reporting a part of Rule 3 General Definitions. So, I will start. Letter D, the term vessel engaged in fishing. Any vessel fishing with nets, lines, trawls, or other fishing apparatus which restrict maneuverability but does not include a vessel fishing with trolling lines or other fishing apparatus which do not restrict maneuverability. So what does it mean? Some vessel that is engaged in fishing or some fishing vessels have an apparatus that does not restrict them to move. And there are some unfortunate ships that have an apparatus that restrict their movement. And the ships or vessels is called a vessel engaged in fishing. Next. So this is a picture. General definitions. Letter E, seaplane. Includes an aircraft designed to maneuver on the water. We can see a picture here when seaplane. Seaplane does means that any aircraft that is designed or can move in the water is called seaplane. Letter F, vessel not under command. A vessel which through some exceptional circumstance is unable to maneuver as required by these rules and is therefore unable to keep out of the way of another vessel. So inside the ship, there will be some accident or incidents that may occur, and one of these is some technical problems on the ship that will cause the ship to be not under any command of the crew on the ship. So when a vessel is not in control by the crew, it can be considered as a vessel not under command. Next, vessel restricted in her ability to maneuver. A vessel which from the nature of her work is restricted in her ability to maneuver as required by these rules and is therefore unable to keep out of the way of another vessel. There are some ships that is restricted in their movement or their maneuverability because of the nature of their work, of the ship's work. Thus, this vessel is considered as vessels restricted in our ability to maneuver. And the term vessel restricted ability to maneuver shall include but not be limited to 1. A vessel engaged in laying, servicing, or picking up a navigation mark, submarine cable, or pipeline. Number 2, a vessel engaged in dredging, surveying, or underwater operations. A vessel engaged in replenishment or transferring persons, provisions, or cargo while underway. Number 4, a vessel engaged in the launching or recovery of aircraft. Number 5, a vessel engaged in mine clearance operations. And number 6, last, a vessel engaged in a towing operation such as severely restricts the towing vessel and their tow in their ability to deviate from their course. These 6 items can be considered as vessel restricted in our ability to maneuver. So, let's move on to letter H, vessel constrained by hydraulic. A power-driven vessel which because of her draught in relation to the available depth and width of navigable water is severely restricted in her ability to deviate from the course she is following. So what does it mean? What does this mean? So some ship can navigate through certain kind of depths of water, and there are some unfortunate ships, especially the bigger one, cannot navigate on shallow waters and therefore cannot deviate from the course she is following. Thus, when a vessel is constrained by her draught, it can be considered as vessel or ship constrained by her draught. Move on. Letter I, underway, means that a vessel is not at anchor or made fast to the shore or ground. This is simple to comprehend. Let's make it simple as this. Any vessel or ship in the sea that is moving on the sea can be considered ships underway or underway. Next, J, length. Her length overall, then breadth, greatest breadth. So, how can we measure length and breadth? So, we can measure length from bow to stern. And we can measure breadth from side to side or from the end of port and to the end of the starboard. Next, K, a vessel shall be deemed to be in sight of one another. Only one can be observed visually from the other. This can be explained, self-explanatory, when considered a vessel in sight of one another when one can be observed visually from the other ship. That's That's what it means. So next, letter L, restricted visibility. Any condition in which visibility is restricted by fog, mist, falling snow, heavy rainstorm, sandstorms, or any other similar causes. In maritime industry, weather plays a huge role as as it can restrict our visibility. How? It can restrict visibility by producing fog, mist, falling snow, heavy rainstorms, sandstorms, or any other similar causes. And it is we can consider it restricted visibility when the crew on the bridge cannot visually see through the bridge because of this weather phenomena, fog, mist, and etc. So when a vessel is restricted visually by this following fog, mist, falling snow, heavy rainstorm, sandstorm, or any other similar causes, it can considered as restricted visibility. We have a restricted visibility. And move on. So that's it. That's it. That's it for our report. We have our references here, and in behalf of my group mates, I am behalf of my group mates, Cadet Abeliana and Cadet Abelgas. I am Cadet Agasa. Uh, Hoping that you have a good day and saying that thank you for listening, and I hope you've learned something. That will be all for our report. Thank you.